So today is Epiphany Sunday. Yesterday was January 6th. It was the actual Epiphany Day, January 6th, 12 days after Christmas. Epiphany concludes the Christmas season. It concludes our celebration of Jesus' birth. So it is both the conclusion of the Christmas season and it is the symbolic celebration of the arrival of the wise men, or the magi, or the kings. And the story for Epiphany is found in the Gospel of Matthew, and it goes like this. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? We observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. And they told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea. For so it has been written by the prophet, 'And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel.' Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time that the star had appeared. And then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, 'Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage.' When they heard the king, they set out. And there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. And on entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and they paid him homage. Then opening their treasure chest, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road." This is the Epiphany story, the arrival of the wise men. An epiphany is both an ending and a beginning. For the Magi, it was an ending to their original journey. They found the baby with Mary, his mother. They offered their gifts. They knelt to the child. They found what they'd been looking for, even though they didn't really know what they had been looking for. They didn't know what they might find. And then they returned home by another road. They set out on a new journey. After having found Jesus, they had a new journey ahead of them. It's Epiphany Sunday, and on this Sunday, preachers generally focus on the Magi, or the star that led them, or the overall idea of journeys. But today I want to do something just a little different, and I want to talk about the camels. I'm getting a thumbs up. The camels, yes, but more specifically, the camels' humps. Have you ever spent much time thinking about the camels' humps? No. Thanks, Jim. No. But the camels, like the other stable animals from our traditional manger scenes, the camels weren't actually referenced in Scripture. If you read the story of Jesus' birth, we never know for sure that a camel is there, but their presence is assumed as they would have been commonplace among travelers, especially travelers who would have gone on a long journey. There's actually some depictions of the wise men's journey which include one camel, one elephant, and one horse, because it has the wise men all coming from different regions, and they would have had different animals. But today's about the camel's hump. Camels can carry up to 200 pounds while walking 20 miles a day in harsh desert environments. They can go a week or more without water, and several months without food. The camel is uniquely qualified for long journeys. And I remember growing up hearing that the hump on a camel's back stored water. Camels were known for their ability to travel long distances without water, and so for a long time it was assumed that that hump must store water. But you may already know that that isn't true. The hump, or the humps, depending on the breed of camel, the hump on the camel's back doesn't store water, they store fat. When traveling long distances without a food supply, the camel draws on its own fat supply in that hump to sustain them. And a camel's hump can weigh up to 80 pounds. 80 pounds of pure fat for the journey. If a camel exhausts his fat supply, the hump actually becomes floppy and lays to one side, which is okay because as soon as he eats, the hump is restored as soon as he gathers more fat. The camel is the only animal to have a hump and store fat in this way. They are unique. And it got me thinking, if a camel's hump is his reserve, his nourishment on the journey, if he stores up that which will keep him alive in his hump, what if we had a hump? Not a fatty hump, because I don't want any more ways to store fat. But what if we had a different kind of hump? What if we had a spiritual hump? A reserve, a spiritual reserve that would allow us to continue our journeys in times of hardship, through our own deserts, times when we feel alone or depleted, times when we find ourselves in situations like the Magi, not really sure where we're going or how long it will take us or what we might even find when we arrive. What if we had a spiritual hump, per se? What would you store in it? What would you take along with you on your journeys? As we begin a new year, we hear a lot about resolutions and goals, most of which don't actually continue beyond the end of January. In fact, within a week, a majority of people have already broken their New Year's resolutions. I have to be honest, I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions. For one reason, I don't think we really take them seriously. Have you ever been in a conversation and you're sharing New Year's resolutions and the person is telling you their resolution and they're laughing as they tell it? They have no intention of really keeping it. They're not even taking themselves seriously in this idea of New Year's resolutions. I did a little research on the statistics, and there's something about 99% of resolutions are broken before the end of January. More than half before the end of the first week, which means if you set a New Year's resolution, odds are you've already broken it on the 7th. We don't give much depth to the idea of New Year's resolutions. But I really like the theory of them. I love the idea behind a New Year's resolution. Starting out on a new journey, beginning something different, going home by another road, as the Magi did, taking a new direction. Whether it concerns our bodies or our spirits or our faith or our daily routines, new beginnings are really important. And they can be really powerful if we take them seriously. New journeys can open up paths and possibilities that we never even imagined existed. Trying something new helps us grow, helps us expand, helps us widen our view of the world and our place in the world, which is precisely what the wise men did. Their journey introduced them to people and beliefs beyond their current context, beyond the culture that they knew. And it's easy, I think, for us to stay in our own circles, and our families, our friends, our communities, our comfort levels. It's easy, without even giving it much thought or intentionality, to stay in what we know. Which is why every now and then we need a new journey. We need something to take us places we haven't been, or to meet people we don't yet know, to discover parts of ourselves we haven't even explored yet. And we don't have to do the extreme of the wise men set off for years to travel. We can start a new journey where we're at within our own communities. But here's one other issue I have with New Year's resolutions. And I've watched this and I've done this. Too often when we slip up that first time or even that second time, we give up on the resolution. That's a lot of pressure to put on ourselves to think we have to get it right the first time and every time. Have you ever gotten in the car and made a wrong turn? You weren't really thinking about where you're going and you, by habit, go another way. I've done it when my kids are talking in the back seat and I'm not paying attention. But I don't just turn around and go home and give up and be done for the day. You go back. You set out again. Have you ever listened to stories, and sometimes the best stories start with someone saying, I got lost, and this is where I ended up. Those are some of the best adventures and stories that we have. We didn't know where we were going, or we took a wrong turn, and we didn't give up. We let it lead us in someplace new. On this Epiphany Sunday, when this idea of journey is abound, we talk about where we've been and where we're going, but we don't talk enough, I don't think, about what it is we're taking with us. What do we take with us on our journey? What do we store up as our reserves and our nourishment for the year ahead? And I think this is an important part of the conversation. A camel is only able to make the journey, to travel 20 miles without food or water, because he carries with him what he needs. And so what if this year we focused less on where we were going and instead focused on what it is we're taking with us? So I spent some time this week thinking about that question for myself, my own spiritual reserves. What do I want to take with me in my year ahead? What would be in my camel's hump? You probably wouldn't be surprised on some of the things I want to take with me. A reminder that God's love and God's presence is with me, even in those moments that I don't recognize it. I would want to take with me compassion and respect, authenticity, grace. I would hope there's always a little bit of humor and lightheartedness. My husband James would tell you that I seem to carry a bit more stubbornness than I might admit to. For a long time, I tried to calm that down, but I've decided it's a good thing. He might not have, but I have. So what are we going to take with us? What nourishes us? But not just a what, a who. Who are the people that we take with us on our journey? Who are the people that help renew our spirits? Who are the people that ground us and nourish us and challenge us when we need it? The people that keep us humble. Who are the people we go to when we feel depleted? These are the things that we draw on when we're walking on our journeys. When we walk through our own wilderness or our deserts, or when we feel drained, what do we fill our camel's hump with? What keeps us connected to God no matter the situation, no matter where we are on our journey? If I'm honest, though, sometimes, and I think back to what I took with me in previous years, I know that there are moments when things seep into my hump that I wouldn't necessarily want there. Things like fear, exclusion, discrimination, anger, greed, a number of other things that I've carried on the journey that I would rather let go of. And so our spiritual work, I think, at the beginning of the new year is to clean out those humps, clean out our reserves, take the time to identify and remove that which drains and exhausts us, and make room for that which nourishes and sustains us. The Magi made their own journeys and experienced their own manger moment because they had with them what they needed on the journey. And so they experienced connection in this new, in this profound way that they took with them as they traveled on. As we begin a new year, a new journey, I invite us to take time to prepare ourselves, to build our reserves, to identify that which nourishes our hearts and our spirits, and build upon those things. Store up that which is life-giving and let go of that which drains and exhausts. We may just find this journey takes us somewhere that we've never imagined. Amen.